Hi folks, this is Trevi and Johnny from Christ Explained. We just wanted to do a quick video. So over to you, Johnny.
Okay, thanks, Trevi. So today, I want to talk about something that I think is going to be very interesting to people who don't know much about this area. But basically, before we move on to that, which is crucifixion in both Islam and Christianity in a comparison, me and Trevi, we've both spoken about this before. That hypothetically speaking, if there was a God, and of course we believe in a God, but let's just speak very hypothetically. Say if you're asking yourself the hypothetical question, is there a God? Well, there are many, many religions in the world, and a lot of people think to themselves, well, which one is true? Which one does the real God use to reveal himself? Now, some people might think, well, if there's thousands, I'll just pick anyone. Anyone's as good as another. What do you think to this, Trevi?
It's not a good way of going about it. You want to follow what is true, don't you? You don't
Exactly.
want to follow a little few people.
Exactly. So it can be confusing. There's thousands. Which one is true? Well, yes. Some religions are big. We have major world religions, and we have small ones. We have cults. We have some that just 100 or a few thousand follow. Now, if you were God, would you choose to reveal yourself in a little cult that hardly anybody else knows about? Does this make sense? It makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you, Trev? So, let's think about the world's big major religions. What are the two biggest religions in the world?
Christianity and then Islam.
Exactly, and in that order, Christianity and then Islam. So these are major religions. The messages spread around the world, you know. So it makes sense from this hypothetical scenario that if you were God, you won't want to have global reach, and you'd want everybody to be given the chance to accept your message. So that is why we think it's important to examine Christianity in comparison to Islam. Now let's look at crucifixion. So, Trevi, could you just tell everybody, when was crucifixion invented?
Yeah, by the Persians, roughly 500 BC.
Yeah, that's right. So when people think of crucifixion, they think of the Romans because of the Bible, because Jesus being crucified, but actually it was initially invented by the Persians, and then it was later adopted by the Romans. But what is amazing about the Bible, in the book of Psalms, and many of the Psalms were written by King David, we have a prophetic description of crucifixion in Psalm 22. Could you just read out the relevant section for us, Trey?
Yeah, that's fine. Verses 16 to 18, it says, "The dogs have compassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me, they pierce my hands and my feet, and I tell all my bones, they look and stare upon me. They part my garments among them, and cast lots upon my vesture."
That's amazing. Could you just also now, because you've given this prophetic description, could you also just read a short passage from Matthew just to show the fulfillment of this?
Yeah, so like we said in Psalm 22, you see the prophecy of it, and we can see it actually happen in Matthew 27, verse 35. "And they crucified him and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots."
Now, that is the amazing thing about that prophecy, you see, because not only does it predict the method of crucifixion, remember it says, as Trevi read out, they pierced my hands and feet. What other methods of torture can you think of where your hands and your feet are pierced? Is there any other you can think of? Exactly. And also there is a reference to the fact that the Roman soldiers literally gambled for Jesus' clothes. It's mentioned in the prophecy, and we have the fulfillment, as Trevi mentioned, from the Gospel of Matthew. Now, it's when it comes to Jesus' crucifixion, this is not in dispute. Everybody, Christians, non-Christians alike, scholars who've examined this matter, it's widely accepted it happened. So the fact that we have in this psalm, and in Psalm 22, going off the top of my head, it's roughly about 1000 BC, so roughly 500 years before it was even invented, before crucifixion was even invented. And though you do have some debate among scholars who were not Christians, and they have a supernatural bias, so they don't believe in prophecies and stuff, even they would admit that the reference in the psalm predates the invention of crucifixion. And this is amazing. That's the Bible. You know, it's inspired by God, written by men through the inspiration of God, and you know, it's full of these kind of supernatural miracles. And I just we've given you the reference there. There are many others. Look them up, and you'll be blown away by them the way that we are. Now, let's look at the Quran. The Quran is different to the Bible in the way that we believe that the Bible was written by men through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. So men were inspired by God. But the difference with the Quran is Muslims believe that Allah dictated it to Muhammad via the Archangel Gabriel, although the Bible just says that Gabriel was an angel, not an archangel. But anyway, so it's word for word the word of Allah, and it's eternally existed. That's the Islamic belief that it always existed. So in Surah 12 and Surah 20, now Surah is just, for people who don't know, it's chapter, Arabic for chapter, so chapter 12 and chapter 20 of the Quran. We have a reference, well, two references here. One to crucifixion taking place in ancient Egypt, one of them in the time of Joseph, and the other one in the time of Moses. So we're talking here roughly at least 1,000 years before crucifixion was even invented. We have an anachronistic description of crucifixion. It actually says that crucifixion happened. It's not a prophecy. It's describing it. It's describing the fact that people were crucified in ancient Egypt. Now, anybody who knows anything about ancient Egypt and history knows that this is laughable. We've got a large amount of records of ancient Egypt. We have hieroglyphs, lots of pictures. Trevi, do you think we've got any description, pictures or anything outside of the Quran of crucifixion in ancient Egypt?
All I remember from school is something like this.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're God, or let's say if you believe in God, who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe a God that makes mistakes, that doesn't even know historically when crucifixion it was even invented? Or are you going to choose to believe in a God who can inspire people to come up with prophecies that actually speak about crucifixion before it was even invented? Which one would you choose to believe in? The God who helps people to predict miracles, or the God that doesn't even know when crucifixion existed?
It's no brainer, is it?
Exactly, it is. So for all these people who wonder Christianity and Islam, there's many differences, and in future videos we will explore this area more. But just think about it: crucifixion. Just this one little illustration, prophecy in the Bible, an anachronism in the Quran. Say, for instance, Trevi, if I give you a book and I say it's an ancient manuscript from 2,000 years ago, and it was written 2,000 years, I have a look at this and I give it to you, and you have a look through it, and you see a description of a guy called Dave who had an Xbox, would you believe that this manuscript was 2,000 years old?
Mm.
Exactly. So if you're a Muslim why believe in the Quran if it can make these type of silly anachronisms? So I just think for anybody who's watching, if you're a Christian, then it's just reaffirming your faith. If you're a Muslim, it should be deeply disturbing to you. And if you're an atheist or you're on the fence, think about it. Think about the truth of what we said and examine it for yourself.
Definitely. And one thing to remember is, what's the point of the crucifixion in the Quran compared to the point of the crucifixion in the Bible? Like, in the Quran, it's got no relevance to sin. It's got no relevance to eternal life, paying a price. But in the Bible, it's the crucifixion and the resurrection is all about Jesus paying our price of sin and giving us eternal life if we believe in him. So the point that it's in the Bible saying what's going to happen, the miraculous happens, so that the miraculous can happen with us as well, for our sin to be paid, and then we can have eternal life with him. In the Quran, I don't see that happening. I don't see the point of it.
Exactly. And one further thing I'll add, Trevi, regarding the comparison between the two. Well, actually, in the Quran itself, when it talks about the crucifixion of Jesus, they don't even believe that happened. They believe that Christ was about to be crucified, and then somebody else was made to look like Jesus and was crucified in his place. And this idea of Jesus never even being crucified, it originated with the Gnostics, Christian heretics who wrote Gospels and things that all the scholars say were at least 100 years after the Gospels and the Bible. So, but this is still before the time of the Quran, because our Bible was, the New Testament was written about 2,000 years ago. The Quran, roughly 1,500 to 1,600 years ago. So it was after the time of the Gnostics, and I think it's clearly where they got this from. And so you can trace how the message was corrupted, and they picked it up from a dodgy, corrupted religion of Gnosticism.
And it's not just the crucifixion, is it, where you see like what happens in the Bible, and then people from all different backgrounds they put it into their own religion, like the flood. You got many people around the world who believe in a flood, but it's from the Bible, but just a corrupt version of it.
Exactly. And not only that, even we do have flood stories that predate the Bible, just like in the Epic of Gilgamesh. But let's just say this, before the Bible was even written down, of course, like when man was first created with Adam and Eve, all these stories were powerful oral traditions, and if the flood happened, of course lots of people would have different stories of it. And we look at, and all the ancient peoples all over the world have what is called the flood myth. You know, they have the stories of the flood myth, and yeah, some of them corrupted it, some of them got them right, but we believe that through Moses, who authored the account of Noah's Ark and Genesis, he was able to get it right through the inspiration of God, and put it under the test. We've just put scripture under the test, and we find that it lines up perfectly with history.
That's it. And I think that brings us to a close. You can read it for yourself in the Bible. It says what's going to happen, and it does happen. We've seen in history things happen because of what's been said in here, and there's things still going to happen in the future, and we can read about them in here. So there we go. That's Johnny and myself, Christ Explained, discussing the crucifixion between Christianity and Islam. God bless you all. Take care. See you later.
Bye now.